Welcome, everyone, to our 55th Kitchen Table Conversation, where we shape a new meaning of masculinity that is more authentic, caring, and thoughtful. My name is Felix Martinez, and today we will continue a series of sessions where we're all introducing the community partners participation project called the Don't Buy It Project. To give you the listeners a quick overview, the Don't Buy It Project is an initiative aimed ending the demand of sex trafficking and other forms of commercial sexual exploitation through the We Are All Connected curriculum, uh, community learning and engagement curriculum. Sorry, I just got all the names screwed up. The curriculum is a resource for men and other men in the community who wants to be involved in the local response to end sex trafficking, but who are unsure of what the role they play. So in this series, our goal is to introduce the curriculum through conversations about our values, beliefs, and to help us understand how, through our conversations, we can identify strategies that can help us transform the conditions and that root causes that allowed sex trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation to exist. In today's conversation, we will review Module 9 of the curriculum, and we will share our points of view on what a healthy sexuality is, uh, uh, other ways of a healthy relationship, how healthy relationships look like, what is consent, what is healthy boundaries, and how we can co-create healthy boundaries with our partners. But before we start today's conversation, let's start by laying the groundwork, transformation by introducing ourselves and the organizations that we work with. This will impact and create deeper connections between each others. So I'll start introducing myself. Again, my name is Felix Martinez. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I work for Esperanza United as an engaging men and boys program specialist. Esperanza United is a national Latino organization that mobilizes Latinas and Latino communities to end gender-based violence. Formerly known as Casa de Esperanza, Esperanza United was founded in 1982 by a group of Latina leaders as an emerging shelter in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, 40 years later, we continue our groundwork on community strengths and wisdom as we serve Latinos and Latinas, not only locally here in Minnesota, but also all the United States. So I'll pass it to Sean or Serrano. Thank you, Serrano, for joining us. You just made it in time.
For sure. I can go. So thank y'all for having me. My name is Serrano Robinson. I use he, him, his pronouns. I work for Menace Peacemakers. I'm out of Duluth. Menace Peacemakers is also an organization that focuses on gender-based violence and trying to end it. Also focusing on repairing harm and preventing harm. And that is actually where I come in. I work with young kids teaching and learning, I'd say, healthy masculinities or just healthy ways of being, healthy ways of valuing each other, healthy ways of valuing different people's identities, but also valuing your own. So yeah, I'm glad to be here. And in the name of accountability, I know y'all don't mind, but I apologize for being late. So thank y'all for having me.
No worries. We're glad you could be here always. And yeah, we're missing our friends Peng and Ed and Roderick, thinking about y'all wherever you are as well. Hey, everybody. My name is Sean Hayes. My pronouns are he, him, and his. And I also work with Menace Peacemakers based up in Duluth. And my primary focus is working with the Don't Buy It project. So I have been very grateful to get to work and team up with Felix for a lot of this work that we do, and have learned a lot, and I'm still learning, and I'm glad that all of y'all could join us here today.
Thank you, Pang. Thank you, Sean and Serrano. I think I also been learning a lot from this curriculum and the Don't Buy It project. I think it's an amazing tool that everybody should have access to it. And I always recommend people go online, go to menandpeacemakers.org, and you can find more information about this amazing curriculum. If you know groups, or you have groups, or in your church or school want to learn more, please connect to them, send them an email, connect to Sean, and you guys are gonna have a great resource to continue fostering healthy relationship, connecting with the community, and building stronger communities. So super happy to have both of you with us here. So like I mentioned a little bit before, we're going to be talking about healthy sexuality. And as we know, healthy sexuality is an important aspect of our health and our well being. And it's the way that most people experience or express themselves sexually. So for me, when I think in healthy sexuality, it's when people who are sexually healthy have a healthy sense of self worth and also respect on their own bodies. People that they're able to enjoy, healthy sex or healthy relationship for his own sake and do not feel guilty or ashamed what sexuality is. That's something probably the opposite of what I learned when I was growing up, because it was one of those taboo topics that people don't like to talk about. I personally don't remember my parents having a conversation with me about sex or what healthy sexuality is. And something I want to share very quick. I don't know if I'm going to regret saying this, but it's how for me how it's. I had my first conversation about healthy sexuality or what sex was, and I was probably really young in elementary school, and there was in the neighborhood that I used to live, all the kids around the same age, we used to hang out in the street and run bikes or skateboard. We used to spend a lot of time together. And there were some street dogs, in Puerto Rico. That's very common to see them. And there was two dogs having a consensual relationship, just to put it that way. And of course, when you're that young, all the kids in the neighborhood, they did pretty much a circle around that. Everybody started laughing and screaming. And because we didn't know what they were doing, we know they were doing something. But my mom noticed the scream. She looked through the window and she just pulled my two sisters and me out of that and sent all the kids to their homes and sit us in the living room and had a conversation with us. And she asked us, you know what those dogs were doing? And we didn't know. We said, well, I don't know. They're doing something. And my mom said, you know what? Well, they're mating. They're making babies. And of course, first time that I hear that, how babies come to the world. And the first thing that came to my mind is to ask my mom, that's how you and dad make babies? So when you think about it, it's just like, oh my God, just blow my mind. Everybody started laughing and it made me realize and understand that, my parents probably did the best with what they knew. Their parents never had that conversation about how a healthy relationship is or how we have this type of conversation. So me now as a father, it remind me the importance of having this conversation and be sure my daughters understand what a healthy relationship, what a healthy sexuality is, so they have a better understanding that they're not supposed to hurt. It's supposed to be between two people. It's probably a very intimate moment. So I want them to have those tools. I have a better understanding of what it is. Just because when I even think about my first relationship, sexual relationships, they're not something that I can look back and say like, wow, this was amazing. Just because all the pressure that I have in my head, because the first time I heard, about sex, it was through my friends, school, pornography. So my visual of how a sex or a healthy relationship was supposed to be, it wasn't realistic. I was thinking, okay, if I have sex, it need to be a specific way. I need to supposed to have a big penis. I'm supposed to last long. I'm supposed to do all these, sexual positions in my mind. So for a kid that young that doesn't know what he's doing, it's a lot of pressure. It's like that man box that sometimes we carry and doesn't allow you to perform the same way. And it's not healthy because you're learning a lot of healthy things that objectify women and they value the woman or sex, not seen as something intimate between two persons, being something more like just sex. So I'll leave it there. I would love to hear from you guys. What is healthy sexuality? Maybe share what you learn, how you learn it, etc. Because we work with community, we know that all these questions, especially for Serrano that work with youth, I'm totally sure that you could be talking about healthy masculinity. Those questions are gonna pop out. So I don't know who want to start. I know also Sean is at that too. So that stuff's gonna start popping up in his mind, and me opening my mouth saying all these things. It's like, oh my God, what am I getting into? But you have family here and friends that are gonna support you, and I don't think there's a book that teaches how to be a father, but I think we have great values, and we're surrounded amazing people that can support us in these type of conversations on how to become better parents. So I'll love to hear from you guys.
Well, I'll jump in here. Yeah, and thank you for asking this question and bringing it to the forefront. I was thinking about, we had talked about Valentine's Day is coming up, and this would be like the perfect time, right? Everybody's thinking about romance and all of that, or they're not thinking about, romance. But um, yeah, I think, gosh, I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think about what is healthy sexuality is, again, like very similar to you, Felix, like thinking about trying to remember like what were those conversations that I had, like when did those happen. And I I have this very vague memory, and I can sort of see it. I must have been in about third or fourth grade. I was at school, and I think we had just come back from recess. I was living in, let's see, Florida at the time, and so they have sort of these outdoor schools, where the hallways and everything is outside. So you're walking through these outdoor hallways. And I remember there were like two doors, and they had us all split up by gender. Girls went in this way, boys went in that way. I vaguely remember there was like a, you know, big poster of like the human body, and they, must have been talking about like the different body parts and genitalia that we have and teaching us some of those words. But I have no recollection of that. And what I do remember was that it was very quick, and all of us, of course, were giggly and feeling uncomfortable. And I think that that also translates to adults, like the grown-ups, right? Us, like it feels a little weird and uncomfortable sometimes, I think, to talk about sexuality in general, because I think so much of what we grow up seeing, like on TV and in magazines and commercials, is like, it just makes me think of that slogan, sex sells. And so we, just like what you're saying, Felix, like we learn um, what this means through, most of the time, through media, through, society, and what the views of society are about sexuality, and whether or not we should talk about it at all, let alone like how do we actually define what healthy sexuality is. And I think, as a parent, I think that these conversations can start very early on. One of the things that um, my partner and I have started right from the get-go, when our kid was born, was like using the correct terms for our body parts, not making up some word, and having her learn that. It's like we want her to be very clear on how her body is created. And also, I think it goes to, as we're teaching our kids these things, it helps with safety. It helps prevent violence ultimately, because we say, hey, we are the only folks who should be changing your diaper or your pull-up, and like these are the folks that we trust with that. And so if someone is touching these parts on you, like you can come to us, and we want you to tell us when that happens, right? And so it's like from very early on, I think the conversations, like we're not describing what sex is to our 4-year-olds, but it's like age appropriate. I think that we can really start having these conversations, and should be having them, because ultimately this does prevent violence, with our kids, with our youth, and then with adults as well in our community. So when I think about healthy sexuality, I think about um, feeling good in our bodies, with whatever activity or intercourse or type, position, things like that, right, where we're being intimate with a partner, multiple partners, whatever it is. Feeling good in our bodies feels like the number one thing. And then along with that and connected to it, I think, is how we learn to talk to our partners about that, about what feels good, about what words we want to use while we're being intimate, and really getting clear on that together as a partnership, right? Not making assumptions about what people want or don't want, what words they like or don't like. And so, yeah, I guess I think, we all want to feel good and safe in our bodies. Um, And we really need to do a better job, I think, as a society, as men especially, to be having these conversations so that we learn what is okay, what isn't okay, and how we can really show up in healthy ways for our partners.
I feel like I said a lot of good things, and I'm definitely gonna try my best. I feel like I am. I don't know if it's due to me be the youngest, but I definitely have the most sailor, speaking on it. So I'm gonna try my best without cursing. But I think you're right. I think all points, like everything I heard was like right. I think first of all, healthy sexuality is having a conversation about it. And I'm somebody who's actually like a pretty big advocate on having open sexual conversations. Like it's not weird to me, but we actually have to like do it in the right way, right? So I take it back to me being a kid. Because I was not taught that the right way, just growing up. Like I've never ever had like one conversation about, the ironic movie thing where it's like the birds and the bees, or like mom and dad. Like I've never had somebody kind of sit me down. I sadly had to kind of like see it from like other people's perspective and other people's actions. So I was like very, very confused as a kid. Again, one of those kids who, watched, the pornographic videos with the friends and, not asking any questions and, giggling and making it more about the taboo about it. And that part is like really, really big. And I hope we get away from like this taboo about like sex in general, because sex is actually very, very healthy when done the right way. It's very spiritual when done the right way. It's very fun when done the right way. Sean, I loved hearing you talk about the different positions and the different ways, because inherently we all just want to like be intertwined with energy and hit this like climatic point where we're both kind of like, getting and giving that energy at the same time. So what does that mean? Like for me, it really means like to be openly expressive in a way that's also supported in confidence, right? So that's break it down into many, many things. It's like, because people should be in a way where, yes, healthy sexuality is you having that feeling of, oh, wow, there's a tingle. Like, no matter the identity, no matter who that person is, like, I like this person, and to be supported behind that is even more important, because I grew up in a way where I'm not going to lie to you, I couldn't say that, or I would not be supported in saying that I like the boy where I grew up at. I'm not going to even pretend that. That is, fortunately for me, at least I don't say fortunately, that is not like my sexuality preference, but also I did not have the chance of that. All of my cousins, everybody around me was like, you gotta like women, you gotta like this. And if you don't, you're not man. If you don't, you're not this. And basically what it really is, it's like, yes, that open expression. So open means that you're being openly expressive about how you like people. Who do you like? What's bringing you those feelings? And then being authentic about that. A lot of us, I feel like, probably lie. Like a lot of us probably like have feelings for maybe other like gender identities or other people. And we're just like, oh, maybe that's not my norm. That's also not being open to yourself. So again, like my vision is being openly expressive with being supported in confidence. So it's a whole long sentence, but people need to support you for you to be confident in that. I'm not gonna lie, like I've been around and I've even been with people like sexually who are like, and myself have been somebody who is not confident. Um, one thing I noticed that's like really weird, and I think Sean, that y'all both hit this point, is like how much of us, specifically men too, who have sex versus how much of us who talk about it, right? Like, and I mean that by saying like how many, like, okay, so if I take how many number of people that I've had sexual partners, how many of them did I actually talk about sex with? Probably, well, now it's getting better, but probably none, right? Or zero or one maybe. And it's weird because like, yeah, that's what actually like presents a taboo. It's like, why are we doing this without talking about it? Like, what the fuck? Like, sorry, what's going on? So that consent is a really, really big piece, because you want to make sure that that person is there, that that person is feeling safe, that person is feeling secure. So consent is the biggest piece for me, the biggest piece. You need to make sure that everybody, and I mean everybody involved, is having fun. Everybody involved is being safe. Everybody involved needs are being met. And that can only come through with healthy conversations. Like I had an ex-partner, like I know you talked about some of us not being open to relationships. I am one of those right now, but I understand it. I have an ex-partner where like we actually like started to have those conversations about, okay, what do you like? What do you don't like? Like, do you like when I put my hand there, or when I put my mouth there, when I do these things? So that's very, very healthy, because that's the most consensual conversation you can ever actually have. That person is literally telling you, whether you want to say it's weird, whether you want to say it's icky, that person is literally telling you what to do to make them feel the best in the world. So how can you neglect that? How can we neglect these conversations where this person is literally telling me? It could literally be, and we wonder why we struggle, right? We struggle with people. We're like, why haven't I made it? And why haven't like I made this person feel this way? maybe you're doing a lot of the wrong things. You could be doing an hour of the wrong things instead of doing 5 minutes of the right things due to miscommunication or due to no communication at all. There are certain things that make me get to that point, quicker, and it's only because of communication. It's only because of consent. It's only because of being open to telling my partner, telling that person that that's how I vibe, that's who I am. So for me, I would say that healthy sexuality at least starts with the conversation, being open and having consent, and it needs to be consented. And I'm with you, Sean. Like, and again, I want to be clear. I speak as somebody who does not have children. A lot of times, people probably flag me for that, but I don't care. I know for a fact that kids are aware of these situations. I don't need to be a father or a parent to know that. One person that I am is like, I understand the schools and I understand everything, but I'm not going to shy away from a child who brings the question. So I'm gonna say that again. I will never shy away from a child. I understand the schools have their criteria, but I will never shy away from a child who asks the question. I live in a world of understanding that there's not going to be a human who asks a question about things that they don't know. They may not know a lot about it, but obviously, if I could form a question about the cloud, I know that the cloud exists, right? So if a child can form a question around sex, then that clearly means that there's some form of sex that that child is being open to. So that's my role. Is like I get it. I'm not a parent, and you may have your feelings about me bringing it up to your child, but I'm never going to neglect a child who asks me that question because that is a clear statement of me knowing that they know about it. Because I was that kid. I was that kid who knew about it, and my parents didn't know. Who knew about it, and my parents didn't want to have that conversation. So again, I'm not a parent, but in me doing the work of the world, if a kid ever comes to me and they're like open about it, I'm gonna have that conversation because I think that's we either left or right about it, right? We're like left is like, oh, don't invite our kids into sexuality. And it's like your kid is already watching pornography. So it's clear that they know a little bit about it. And they will actually be better off with you helping them. Like to be honest, like I struggle with a lot of things in life, and my mom really actually helped me by talking with me about these situations.
Thank you, Serrano. Yeah, absolutely. I listen to you and start connecting those things in my mind, seeing myself in those situations growing up too. And yeah, I think those conversations are super important when you're starting or building a relationship. I know, as you mentioned, I know newer generations are more open to hookups, and that's something that happened a lot. The body count, they start comparing, oh, what's your body count? And just devaluing, people just because, how many counts, how many people you have slept with, etc. But, it's very important also to know or, work on our self-esteem or self-worth, appreciate our own bodies. I think that's when you realize something in the your sexual relationship is not going on just because you can feel it in your body. There's something that's not going well. I see it a lot too sometimes in people dating older people, dating younger girls or younger women than younger boys, etc. When there's a huge difference in ages, it make me think it's like, if this person with the good intent is with that person with good intentions, why in his mind, why someone who's in his 40s dating someone that is just turned 18 or something like that? I think as an adult, you need to let everybody experience in their own way, but in a healthy way, in a way that you feel good, you feel fine, you're on your own pace, you don't have someone rushing you, especially when you learn from pornography. You think that you need to do it bow, 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 bow this way and done, without realizing the importance of foreplay and, kissing. There's some, love is a beautiful thing. And when it's done with respect and like you mentioned, with consent is amazing. So I would love to hear from you guys. Like, we know this is very uncomfortable sometimes to talk, but how we can talk about these issues when we feel uncomfortable. How you guys get to that point? And I can start, maybe saying something that's I personally think that in order to be open to have this type of conversations, it's very important to create trust. I think trust is the key in this type of situation. That meaning, in order to earn trust, we need to listen with intention to that person that with you, with your partner. You need to be supportive, you need to be respectful, just to be sure that that person that's with you in that intimate moment, they have the best intentions, that you guys can connect, not just visually but mentally too. So you're more into, you're more committed just because there's a deeper connection that's totally opposite of what you can do when you hooked up with someone in a bar. That's something that, maybe they're both as an agreement that what you guys want to do, but there's not really a connection there. You're just doing it just to do it, so how you guys have this type of conversation when you guys understand that there could be a little bit of comfortable, how you can create that trust, or you have any other tips, or how you guys do it?
I was hitting the keyboard thing for Zoom. We're not on Zoom, to unmute. But I think for me, just being real about like the fact that, hey, this does feel uncomfortable, you know? And I was thinking as you were sharing there, Felix, I think we typically would think about like, how do we have these conversations within healthy relationships? And like intimate romantic relationships. And I also, the thing that was coming to mind, or in this moment is coming to mind, is like conversations like this, where we're having conversations with our guy friends, our men in mask folks in our lives, and we're saying, hey, I know this feels a little uncomfortable, but like, can we talk about this thing that happened in my relationship? I didn't feel great about that, and I don't know how to have that conversation with my partner. And so I feel like there's so many different ways, right, that we can find support, that we can have these conversations, even when it feels a little icky or it feels weird. Um, but that's the thing. It's like we're sort of having to retrain and redefine what sexuality is from like all of these negative, bad portrayals of what it is. Y'all mentioned pornography and the stories that those videos tell. It's not realistic. This is not what we want our youth or anybody to be following after or modeling after. So how can we say, hey, this is, it's okay to feel a little bit weird. Like we all feel weird at times in our lives. And that's like a natural part of, I think, being a human, is like we just feel weird or embarrassed, or, there can be shame that comes in. And so I think what you said, Felix, there about like, who are those people that you have built the trust with, whether it's your buddies, whether it's a family member, whether it's, your partner who you're in a relationship with, um, and like making sure that you have those relationships to begin with, right? Like safe, trusting relationships where you can say, hey, I don't know what to do in this situation, or have y'all ever experienced this thing? And not being so isolated, not, making all the assumptions, having all of the worries that we, have, whether it's about our bodies or whether it's about how we perform in the bedroom, or, whatever those things are, like having the people around you, that community around you, where you can lean into the discomfort together.
Feel like you just stole all the words. Because I think you're absolutely right. I think it's like finding that group people, even a situation, we call it a safe space, where you can even kind of start having those conversations, because they're very, very needed. And then when you find that, it's actually having that conversation, right? Actually breaking the ice. Like I'm somebody who like, I'll put myself in there to be like, hey, now I like, and I think that also helps like modeling certain things. Like I'll model like uncertainty just to see like, because I know you're uncertain, but I'll model it to be like, it's okay to be uncertain. We can only learn when we're uncertain. So I'll be like, no, when I was your age, I didn't know everything. I didn't have everything. I wish I would have loved to have somebody like to have a conversation with me. So you don't have to feel bad about that at all. And if they're older, I'll just be like, well, it's sex. We all have sex, right? And I'd be like, now imagine how many of us actually have a conversation around that. And not how many people feel weird about doing it. Like there's a clear connection between having that conversation and feeling weird. It's the reason why we feel weird, because we don't have the conversation about it. I actually had to like had a conversation that was very, very uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. But I did it because it was more needed. I'm somebody who operates like, the way I say it is like, I think people do things that are easy in their lives, and then when it comes down the road, it becomes harder for them. It's like lying, right? How you lying is easy right now, but then 3 days down the road, it becomes harder. It's harder to be honest right now in this moment, but 3 days from now, it's beneficial. So that's actually how I live my life. Like that's my moral standard. It's like I would rather you know right now, so that way you'll never have to second guess anything that I say. You don't have to second guess that it's you, that it can be me. I just, for me, like, and it may sound like cliche, but honesty really is just like the best policy. Like anything, like I'm somebody I can feel like when I'm not being real, and then like it's getting worse, and I don't like that. So it's also honoring how I feel when it gets uncomfortable. You know, I come back to that self-esteem and like, no, you're important to yourself as well. You're not just there to advocate for other people. You're there to advocate for yourself. And this particular situation was uncomfortable for me. So I was like, okay, I want to talk about this in a way where the person understands where I'm coming from. If they have love or understanding for you, they're going to understand it. And if they don't, then they just don't have that love for you. I think that's a step that we also like are scared to take because it's very, very daunting. You learn a lot about who's really not for you, honestly. But I'm somebody who's going to take that step. I'd rather me tell you right now, like, hey, I'd rather us just be friends. I feel like the way we're doing these things is not right. I'm not actually looking for anything, and I don't want to hurt you by any. So to be honest, yes. So um, I'm not looking for anything right now in life. But I'm somebody who is open to like consensually, like sexual partners. And then this started to like feel pretty weird because I felt like the person, sadly, like was getting like too much of an attachment, which comes with that, right? Like I think Felix was talking about that. Like it's not just like a one-off. Like I learned that these things really come with energy. Like you're not supposed to just be swapping your energy with everybody at every moment. And if you are, I'm not judging you either. But for me, it is about the energy. It is about like, and some people even may believe like if you're like Christian or whatever, like some people believe that there's like demons in the energy and all types of things like within the energies of you like having these sexual things and all that. So I'm not that deep into it, but I'm just like on the energy level of like when things feel good, let that be known. And so if that makes sense, when things don't feel good, let that also be known. I feel like it's only when things don't feel good that we're not talking about it. And it's clear that we do it to ourselves. Like we can't just talk about the good. We got to talk about the uncomfortable. And like I said, if they care for you, they have to understand it. It's their choice. It's no other choice. That's called a boundary. Like that's called a boundary. When I'm telling you about something and you love me, you have to accept it. There is no if, ands, or buts. The if, ands, or buts is if I don't love you. And now you know, right? Now you know who to be around. So I think it does come down to just having that open conversation because yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Like I'm not a fan of doing what's easy right now. But 5 years down the road, you're in a relationship that what you didn't really want. Are you serious? I'd rather tell you from day one, like I don't want this. So that way you never see a different person out of me. And that's for that other person too. Like other people got feelings. Like that broke me that person really was like getting more attached. Because that's not what I wanted to do to that person. But intentions versus impact is a big, big thing. And that person was still hurt by it, right? So it's something about being mindful about the uncomfortability, letting it go too far. I would say I let the uncomfortability go too far, and people got hurt out of that. So
Yeah, and I was just going to pop in to say, thanks, Lena, for sharing your comments. Lena says, uncomfortability is necessary for transformation for all of us. And that is so real and so sucky sometimes, when you're in the moment. I was thinking too, like, even in this moment, right? Like I found myself sort of like clenching my teeth. And we notice those things happening in our body, like I'm a little sweaty, it's like, okay, I clearly am feeling a little anxious. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable. And that's right. It's like growth cannot occur through, just taking the easy road. Like we grow, we transform, our communities transform when we do lean into these uncomfortable conversations.
By the way, hi Lena, good to see you're there. She's an amazing leader. Let's give some shout out to a Call to Men. So they're doing amazing work. But yes, I totally agree with what you guys have been sharing. And we also need to add those cultural or aspect or religion, how sometimes that limit ourselves of creating the spaces, expectations, we're supposed to stay virgin until we get married. We're not supposed to talk about this. If you get married forever. There's a lot of things that we could be talking here for hours, but we need to be realistic. Yeah, also understand that having a relationship is not easy. This is not a Hallmark movie that everybody is perfect, snow is falling, you kiss. There's a lot of expectations of the society that cause a lot of harm. in our relationship, expectations that we need to be aware. And that's why it's important to bring all these questions that we're sharing right now and having conversation with our kids. And like we mentioned, they're going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to help us create that trust and that bond that's going to be sure is going to provide that safe space. So eventually when our daughters or sons or friends need someone to talk, you already have created that bond, that space that they know they have a voice, they're going to be respected. And when we think about relationships, that we start looking for individuals that we can share same values, that we can share similarities that make us keep growing as a person. Having someone that you know is going to back you up, is going to be cheering for you to do better. And there's importance when you're looking for a partner. So my question for you guys are right now, when we're thinking in that values, what are those values that you look like in a partner? So I'll put that for you guys. I'll let you start now, then I'll give my part.
I think for me, what comes to mind immediately is like types. Like, I think that's how I've heard it a lot. Like, we all have like a type, right? And I think a lot of that comes down to like physical appearance and your gender expression and a lot of things like that. But I think I really like this question because I think it gets deeper than that, right? Like, it's very easy to, on the surface, be like, that person's attractive, I want to get with them, or, you know, whatever it is. But like to have that deeper connection, to actually be like looking to connect with that person on a deeper level, um, feels so important to me. And it like makes the relationships feel much better for me, personally. Values, gosh, I feel like there's so many that I look for in partners, that I look for, you know, in friendships as well. But I think the number one thing that's coming to mind is kindness. Like, it's got to be a person who, in their heart of hearts, is kind and is like intentionally trying to live their lives that way. Because it takes work. It's not just like there's kind people and there's unkind people. Like, we all have those moments, where we are unkind or just flat out mean to people. And so I think that is real important for me, just like, actively working on that. And I think growth in general, like the fact that we as humans, we only learn like what we're around, right? Like, our families teach us what they can, our parents teach us what they can, what they know from their experiences. But you know, being open-minded, being curious about learning about whether it's different people or cultures, religions, you know, you just mentioned those, like, and also like looking inward, that feels really important to me too. Like, you know, our folks, are our partners, or are my partners like concerned with their own growth? Like, are they thinking about those ways where they can grow, where they can learn, and just be more of our like whole selves together. And maybe that's the last thing I'll share, is like just a desire to be whole, to like bring our whole selves into a relationship, to feel like I don't have to hide part of my history, to feel like I don't have to feel ashamed of mistakes that I've made. You know, I think we all feel that and we work through it. Um, but yeah, just the idea that like I'm not with a person just for like a couple of their attributes or a couple of our shared values. I want to connect with the person on a whole, and I want to see their whole big beautiful self, and not have to feel like they have to like put themselves into any certain box to like fit what works for me. Like, I want to see all of you, and I want to, see you thriving, and I want us to do that together.
Like, again, just hard to follow up. But I feel like, again, like we just have these great questions. Um, and I think it's clear to just have these conversations is very beneficial. Like for me, I think that first piece that I think about is peace in itself. And I'm like an energy person, so I kind of explain what that means. Like, I'm really weird now, and I like it, right? So openly weird. I love that part about myself. And it's like weird that I don't really even be looking at like people's faces or appearances. Like, I really go off of like the energetic. Like, Can I have a conversation with you for 5 hours straight that feels like we had a conversation for a minute? Yo, bro, I ain't gonna lie, y'all. I've had those conversations. If it wasn't for me being young, I'd have probably proposed right then and there. I promise you. I was like 21 or something. And it was just amazing that me and this person was just connecting so deeply. I promise you, if it wasn't for the age, I'd be married right now. Or if you say yes, I'd be married right now. But that's just, yeah, that's what I value. It's like that energy, man, like the peace. Like, and for me, peace comes into like, I feel like, and I have a strong opinion on discussing versus arguing. Like, I'm 27, man. I would love to discuss. Like, I don't like yelling and arguing and throwing shit and fighting. And I'm sorry, my language, throwing stuff and fighting. And I feel like we just have to be like kind to each other. Peace to me means like if I get upset, whether it's like about anything, I'm gonna go take a walk. I'm gonna go take a run, play basketball, use my coping skills because I'm an individual human being that another human being does not have to sit with. I do not like when other people have to sit with somebody else's negative emotions. That is not fair at all, especially when they don't even know what's going on. We forget that we're complex humans, and most times the things that we're dealing with have nothing to do with our partners. And sadly, most of the time our partners have to reap that. And I don't want to be that person. I'd rather go take a walk and say, hey, baby, it's actually not you. It's something that I had to walk through, and you're amazing. And when I take these walks, it is not because you're the problem. It's because I'm just trying to figure out what's internally bothering me. And I'll actually tell her that. Like, I'll explain to her why I'm taking a walk. Like, I'm not taking a walk to walk away from you. And I hope, because I've had people in their lives who had people walk away. So I'll make that very clear. I'm not leaving you. This is my coping skills to go hit the air. I love playing basketball, seeing the ball go through the net. That's just me. So that's what I am, is like, I want peace in my relationship. Like, and I don't care if like, yeah, if it never happens, I'd rather it like happen in the way that I wanted it for it to, happen in a way that it's wrong. Because peace to me is the ultimate thing. Like, I would also love like the person to like for them to value themselves. And I want to say this in the best way because I know that it is very hard for us as human beings to love ourselves. I know that it is, but I'm not gonna lie, like that's attractive to me. It's attractive to me when you can be like, I'm not this, and I love that about myself. I am not, this person, this weird like, fictional tale, and I'm okay with that. My hair is not long, and I'm cool with it. I got short hair, and I love that. I don't play basketball, and I don't vibe out with you, but I like that we can connect on other things. Like, so I'm not gonna lie, like my preference has came to this, and I've been trying to say it the best way I can because again, I understand it's not easy to love yourself. It is not easy to love yourself unconditionally. But I love that energy. I love to see you glow about yourself. I love to see you be like, I'm me and that's it. Like, I am the essence. I am like, I don't know why I just love that. Like, I don't know why I just love it now. So I would say that. And also being a kind person. Like, I feel like being kind and being understanding are two things that we just lack as human beings. Like, I've gotten to the point of understanding, and don't get me wrong, it's hard, but it's very necessary because I don't know who you are. Like, we forget that there's some things that we don't know about people. Like Sean and Felix, I've known you both for years, but there are aspects that y'all don't know about me and vice versa. So at the least, we have to be understanding to each other. You don't have to agree. I'm not asking you to agree. I don't want you to agree. Understand, or at least try to understand. I feel like we lack the understanding and we lack the empathy. We either go, that hasn't happened to me. I didn't ask you if it happened to you. I asked you to imagine. Imagine how you would feel if that happened to you. Just imagine. It's sad that we imagine everything else but empathy. We imagine everything in life but empathy. Just imagine how that would make you feel. Now take a step back. So I think that's what I just value is like somebody who's just like, and I love goofy people, man. I'm not gonna lie. I just love people who are like outside of themselves. Don't take things too serious. I'm somebody that like, I'll tap your shoulder and I'll be standing on the other side. Just somebody like that brings peace. Somebody who's like open, like understanding, loving, and just like love themselves as well. Because yes, like I will always say, this is not easy, but it's definitely worth it to just love yourself unconditionally, like acceptance, like even the things you are not, love that too. So.
Serrano is preaching today. Thank you, Serrano, for preaching. I think that's amazing to hear you. I love to hear you guys. I love to hear you also talking about stepping away from situations. Sometimes when we understand our bodies, we know how we react, and in order sometimes to create more harm. It's healthy to understand your body, listen to your body when you start sweating or you start getting shaky. You know that maybe if you open your mouth, you're gonna maybe cause more harm. So it's very important to listen to your body, understand that, and also be able to, to have something that you mentioned before, Serrano, is the consent, and consent is all about communication and respect. That's what is all consent, When you think about consent, we need to understand that it's pretty much an agreement or a permission expressed through affirmative or voluntary actions or words that create that mutual agreements, in both parties to engage in a specific action. Could be a sexual act or etc. But it's something that is super important in relationship, and it's super also important to understand that this consent, it can be withdrawn at any time. Just because you give it once, that doesn't mean it's always there. It cannot be forced, cannot be given to someone who is drunk or incapacitated, someone that we hear cases all the time in the media about someone who got raped because was intoxicated, or they put a pill in their drink. And me as a father, every time that I know my daughters are going out, it's my speech to tell them, don't take drinks from anyone, be careful with you hang out. If you see one of your friends is intoxicated, bring it with you, call a taxi, take them to their house, just because we need to take care of each other. And sometimes, we unfortunately we live in society where there's people that benefit and take advantage of individuals, that maybe they're intoxicated, or individuals in general. So let's stick to those good values that build stronger community, build stronger communications. And I know we probably have like 12 minutes left. Let me ask you one last question. What are healthy boundaries? Because I hear you guys, especially Serrano, talking about boundaries. So what are healthy boundaries, and how do you communicate these limits with your partner?
You want to take that one first, Serrano?
He's preaching.
Yeah,
He's preaching. So let's keep him in the mood.
Yeah, I can give that a swing. I feel like healthy boundaries are like things you've learned in your past experience that feels good for you, right? Because I think a boundary is something that like you don't want to happen, or a stopping point, and healthy means like good or like fruitful. So I think it's through your experience, like you learn about yourself, what you do and you don't want, what you can and you can't take, what you do and you don't want happening to you. And that little like kind of communication you do with yourself, all in all, is really what healthy boundaries are to you, right? Like, does that feel good when you make that space? And it's also trying it, right? Like when you try your boundaries and it feels good, stand on that. Like, so when you tell, a partner, I don't actually like how this feels, and that makes you feel good, don't feel bad about having a boundary. There's too many people, and myself included, who feel bad about having a boundary. You cannot feel bad about communication. You cannot feel, and that's the part about loving yourself, is it's not up to you to be like, I'm the problem because I feel bad. No, your emotions are going to shine regardless. So you have to listen to yourself and be like, no, this is not something that I want happening. This is not it. So for me, I definitely think that healthy boundaries come from you learning what you like about it, like you learning what you like to have done to you and what you don't like to have done to you. It's about the experiential part of your life. And that's why I get so pissed off, is because like I had to experience these things for me to make that a boundary. And how dare you not respect that? Like some of our boundaries came out of a lot of like toxic and like trauma filled events, right? Like a lot of our boundaries didn't come out of like positive things. It came out of, oh, wow, that did not feel good. And I don't want that ever to happen again. So how can I actually communicate that in a way that's helpful, in a way that's healthy, in a way that both parties can actually understand that? So I would say, yeah, that's kind of like what they are for me. Like, and my healthy boundaries are just like communication, telling me before you're going to put your hand on me, talking to me before you're going to telling me exactly where you're going to put your hand or wherever you're going to put it. So that way I know exactly what's going to happen. And then respecting that is probably the most important part of that. As humans, we're better at listening than we are at respecting it. I heard it, but I just know if you hear it, you respect that. And I want to throw like a little piece on like consent, because I feel like that's amazing. It's like you asking for permission of things that are done to you or done to other people. And like when I'm working with the youth, it's so amazing to kind of talk about these things. We talk about consent in different ways of communication. Like we actually talk about different forms of communication. I'll even tell them like, okay, no is one way, but if I were to and I'll ask them like, do you mind if I use you as an example? Even that's a consent. And he or she, they'll say yes. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to put my hands towards you. I want you to move away as an example. Are you okay with that? Another step. Every point you need to be having consent. The person was like, okay. So in my example, I was like, although I may not say no, imagine if I started to put my hand towards you and your body starts to move away from me. That is another form of communication. It's one that we need to listen to. It's not one that your ears can hear, but it's one that the rest of your other senses can see and tell, right? And I'll also do this one little cool activity, but then where I have my hand like this, and I'd be like, if you can open my hand in 10 seconds, you get an extra snack. You'll see all the kids like try to like, the strong kids will come up and try to rip my hands apart and try to, in all reality, actually, the person will come up and say, would you mind opening your hand for me, please? Notice how consent was way easier, right? Consent was way quicker. Consent was way beneficial for both. I asked him, I'm like, how much time did you take trying to get my hand open? 10 seconds, 20 seconds? Did it take you a lot of energy? Yes. How much energy does it take to actually ask for permission? It takes way less energy, way less effort, but for some reason we don't do it. So those are my little 2 cents on that.
Woo, that was good. Dang, that's a excellent activity. I appreciate you sharing those because, yeah, what I was just thinking about is this book that we just got maybe last year for our 4-year-old. And I want to say it's called like Yes and No, a book on consent, and it's developmentally, it's age appropriate. I really love what you said there, Serrano, about like someone doesn't actually have to verbally say the word no, or I'm not into that, or like talk about why they're not into it. Like there's no um, explanation that is needed. And in this book, I'm trying to teach my 4-year-old, and it's showing pictures of, hey, if this kid is crying, um, they're not saying no, but they're visibly not having a good time. We can tell that they're not enjoying themselves, and we can interpret that as a no. And so, yeah, I feel like so much of the healthy boundaries piece is like learning how to talk about those things, learning how to notice like when our partner's energy is off. Serrano, like you brought in that energy piece. Like we feel that, right? We have gut feelings, we have instincts, and we know when someone is not enjoying themselves. And so, whew, yeah, gosh, I feel like, yeah, we need like a whole nother 2-hour session to talk about just this piece. But what I will say too is, as a current, former, working on it, people pleaser. I think a lot of us in this area, we've got the Minnesota nice sort of passive aggressive stuff that a lot of folks are just used to doing and interacting in that way. And so, for me, I feel like just in the last year have I really realized like I can actually set boundaries for myself as well, like personal boundaries, so folks aren't like stepping over that and making me feel uncomfortable. I can actually create those for myself, and then we can create them within our relationships, whether it's friendships or intimate partners, or, romantic partners. Creating those together is also like a really beautiful thing. Like that's, I don't know, I feel like that's how life should happen all the time, right? We're like co-creating, we're creating these spaces, we're creating good energy spaces together in community. And ultimately, it's because we see each other's humanity. We see and we care about that human being. And so, having these conversations, just feels so vital to me on so many levels. And, I want to say thank you to all of our folks who have stuck with us here, watching our conversation live and sharing your thoughts and commenting and joining the conversation in that way. Like we deeply appreciate y'all tuning in and really like joining the conversation. We love that. And so, we've come to the end of our time here. I think we got through maybe 4 out of 7 or 8 questions. So that was pretty good. But again, like each one of these questions you could talk about with someone for an hour or more, right? I love what you said there, Serrano, about like, is the person someone I can sit down and talk to for 5 hours and we have that comfortability? Like that's such a beautiful thing, and I'm grateful for the relationships in my life where we have that, and where we're continuing to build and learn about each other and communicate about our boundaries and what feels good and doesn't feel good, and how we can ultimately be safe together. So thank you again to all of you for joining us for this 55th live kitchen table conversation. We're very grateful to all of our funding partners for all of their support as we continue to host these conversations, where our goal is really to model how we can have authentic, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes giggly, and we're chuckling, we really want to show that these conversations are meaningful and you can have them with your buddies. You can have them at the kitchen table, your literal kitchen table, with your families, with your partners. So we encourage you to start practicing that together in community. And just as a reminder, for those of y'all who might not know, we host these conversations every other week. So our next conversation will be on Thursday, February 23rd at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be back right here live on our Facebook page. And we will be having another conversation about the Don't Buy It project. The second phase within that curriculum, within that programming, is all about talking about the current conditions that are happening in our communities around violence, around oppression, racism, homophobia, socioeconomic oppression. Like what is the current state of our communities, and how can we understand those, and how that impacts how trafficking happens, how that impacts commercial sexual exploitation, and allows that to really flourish. So as we can learn about those things, we can continue to do our part to prevent this kind of violence from happening. So don't forget, before you leave, like our Facebook page. You can also turn on notifications. Every time we go live, it'll just pop right up and you can tune right in. You can also check out all of our previous conversations on our Facebook page here, as well as we have a YouTube channel. We have a playlist that literally has 55 of these conversations. We challenge you to go back and tune into some of those, because they've been pretty incredible. So thanks to you guys, Serrano, Felix, deep appreciation for this really, really good, slightly uncomfortable, but super, super good, conversation. I really appreciate y'all. And so thanks. Until next time, we'll see y'all back in 2 weeks. Can't wait. Have some conversations at your kitchen table. We'd love to hear about that. All right. Take care, folks.
Thank you, everyone.